What's up, investors? It's the Russian Dude. In today's episode, let's talk about how political games and very short-term thinking can kill the economy. Specifically, I'm referring to Janet Yellen and some representatives of the Democratic Party. I guess you can imagine who I'm talking about. So in the face of upcoming presidential elections, they're almost forcing the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, to start cutting the rates and not wait until the inflation is under control, until the inflation reaches the target of 2%. Fortunately, at least for now, Jerome Powell is not following along to these threats. During the most recent FOMC meeting in July, the Federal Reserve did not cut the rates, they kept them at current levels. But I mean, who knows? The closer the presidential elections get, the more severe push against Jerome Powell can begin. Eventually, we might see some premature rate cuts. To begin with, Jerome Powell himself, he did mention that right now we are not yet in the environment where the rate cuts are needed, because the inflation is still a little bit above the target, the labor market is not cooling down as fast as they wanted. But yes, rate cuts are inevitable and long awaited by the market participants, but once again, we are nowhere near close yet to be in this situation when the rate cuts should begin. Just yet. Inflation is only slowly budging, it is like literally walking at the snail speed. Then the labor market is also cooling down, but not as fast. In order to make any reasonable decisions and conclusions, they still need more data, and rightfully so. However, potential first rate cut, which is expected in September, well, until September there is simply 2 more months, many things can change. And this change can be for better or worse. We might see exactly what Federal Reserve wants us to see, or actually the situation might do a complete 180 and go in the completely opposite direction. That is why Jerome Powell has to be extremely careful right now, because all these hints that there will be almost 90% probability that the rate cuts will happen in September, I mean, that's all the media is talking about right now. The first rate cut is set to happen in September. I mean, just imagine if it does not happen. Just imagine how many market participants will be upset and shocked. This will severely affect the stock market, I mean, just to say the least. So all this pressure from the politicians, I mean these political games, just to generalize, for just what? Good headlines, increased approval ratings right before the elections, saying, look, we fight against the inflation, our fight is successful, the prices are going down. This can backfire very quickly, because literally, if you think about it, all that needs to happen is just a little bit more patience. I mean, the rate cuts will happen, don't worry. Just give it a couple more months. Because if not done in an appropriate timing and in appropriate manner, well, this can undo the entire progress of the last several years. The inflation reaccelerates, bringing us back to square one, to ground zero, which is the last thing everyone wants. This is also taking into consideration that the inflation tends to come in waves, as you can see from these graphs, from the 30s, from the 40s, from the 70s, and right now we are in the progress in the time when the inflation goes down. Potentially we can be right at the bottom of the current period inflation, which, yes, like if you start cutting rates way too soon, as you can see, the inflation in the end might be even higher than it used to be several years ago. And right here potentially is the scariest graph, which shows the long-term inflation expectations all the way down to 2029. Which kind of confirms the fact that if Jerome Powell is going to be weak, if he is going to follow along with these threats by the politicians to start cutting rates because we do need some good headlines, as you can see, yeah, we can be destined to extremely unfortunate events as early as by the end of this decade. Well, there you have it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel if this was interesting and informative for both, and see you on Monday.